world's most photographed bridge isn't in San Francisco or London. It's a golden walkway in Vietnam that appears to be held up by giant stone hands emerging from a mountain. And what's even more surprising, it was only built in 2018.
That's such a striking image. The engineering behind the Golden Bridge must have been incredibly complex.
What fascinates me is how they positioned it exactly 1,414 meters above sea level at Bana Resort. The elevation literally puts visitors up in the clouds, creating this otherworldly experience that's drawing millions of tourists annually.
You know, speaking of ancient and modern coming together, have you heard about this fascinating Ark Reimagined project?
Oh yes, the way Rashad Salem and the UN team are approaching it is completely revolutionary. Instead of that traditional European ship design we've all seen in pictures, they're examining actual historical boat building techniques from the Gulf region.
Well, what really caught my attention was how they connected it to that massive climate event around 8000 BCE.
Exactly. We're talking about sea levels rising 120 meters in the Gulf region during the transition from the Pleistocene to the Holocene era. That's like submerging a 40-story skyscraper underwater.
That scale comparison reminds me of Son Doong Cave. The photographs by Ryan DeBoot barely capture its immensity.
You know what's mind-blowing about Son Doong? You could literally fit a Boeing 747 through some of its passages. The cave system has its own ecosystem, underground river, and climate.
So how do you think these three locations represent different aspects of human interaction with natural spaces?
Well, look at it this way. The Golden Bridge shows our attempt to enhance nature with human creativity, creating this seamless blend that draws over 2.7 million visitors annually. Son Doong Cave represents nature's raw power to create spaces that dwarf our greatest achievements. And the Ark project connects us to our ancestors' relationship with nature in a completely new way.
That's quite a fascinating connection between past, present, and natural formation.
And what's particularly interesting is how digital technology is changing our relationship with these places. Through virtual tours and high-definition photography, people can now explore Son Doong's vast chambers without risking damage to its delicate ecosystem.
Though nothing quite compares to seeing these places in person, right?
Well, that's the interesting tension. The Golden Bridge was specifically designed to handle mass tourism, with its structure capable of supporting thousands of visitors daily. But places like Son Doong need careful management. They only allow about 1,000 visitors per year to preserve its unique features.
How do you think these projects might influence future architectural and conservation efforts?
I believe we're going to see more ambitious attempts to blend natural and built environments, inspired by the Golden Bridge's success, but hopefully with greater awareness of preservation needs, like what we've learned from Son Doong Cave, and with deeper historical understanding, as demonstrated by the Ark Reimagined project.
That's quite an optimistic outlook for the future of architecture and conservation.
Well, these projects show us what's possible when we combine human creativity with respect for natural and historical contexts. The Golden Bridge isn't just a tourist attraction, it's a blueprint for how we might better integrate human activity with the natural world, while projects like Ark Reimagined help us understand our historical relationship with nature in new ways.
The way Da Vinci managed to weave such personal meaning into that John the Baptist painting while still satisfying his religious patrons.
Well, let's dive into the technical brilliance here. The famous come hither gesture was modeled by Gian Giacomo Caprodi, who Da Vinci affectionately called Salai. The way he captured that intimate expression while maintaining the religious symbolism, that's next level artistic coding.
So this was basically Renaissance-era subtle representation? The kind of thing that would fly over most people's heads at the time?
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how this connects to modern institutions like NASA, which just made this groundbreaking statement about Pride Month. We've gone from hiding these stories in artwork to celebrating them openly in our most prestigious scientific organizations.
That's such a powerful contrast from encoding identity in religious paintings to openly recognizing LGBTQ+ contributions to space exploration.
You know what's really interesting? Da Vinci wasn't just an artist, he was also a brilliant scientist and inventor. His notebooks show someone who was constantly pushing boundaries in multiple fields. Kind of like how NASA emphasizes that diversity of perspective drives innovation.
Well, that really highlights how being outside the mainstream of society might actually fuel revolutionary thinking, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Da Vinci's approach to observation and innovation mirrors exactly what NASA celebrates in their modern workforce. They're explicitly saying that diversity and gender variance aren't just things to be tolerated, they're valuable assets that contribute to their mission.
The language they're using is so specific, too, about promoting self-affirmation, dignity, and equal rights. It's like they're creating the environment that Da Vinci could only dream of.
Right? And let's talk about why this matters for modern innovation. When NASA talks about supporting their LGBTQ+ employees, they're acknowledging that scientific breakthroughs happen when people feel safe bringing their whole selves to work.
That makes me wonder about all the other hidden histories we might be missing in both art and scientific achievement.
That's actually a crucial point. Think about how many scientific papers were published under initials or male pseudonyms, or how many artworks have layers of meaning we're only now beginning to understand. The Da Vinci painting is just one example we happen to know about.
So what you're saying is that progress isn't just about uncovering these histories. It's about creating spaces where these stories don't have to be hidden anymore?
Exactly, and look at how this kind of institutional support creates ripple effects. When an organization like NASA takes a stand, it influences other institutions and helps create broader social change. Just like how Da Vinci's art, while deeply personal, had far-reaching cultural impact. A chess manual, indigenous totems, and a mechanical music player might hold the key to understanding how humans preserve knowledge across generations. Let me show you the fascinating connection.
Well, that's an intriguing combination. How did you discover this pattern?
So it all starts with Francois-André Danican Philidor, who in 1749 published what became the most influential chess book of the 18th century. You know how people say knowledge is power? Well, this guy literally wrote the blueprint for strategic thinking that shaped military and political theory for over 100 years.
What made his approach so revolutionary at the time?
Here's the fascinating part. Philidor was the first to recognize that pawns weren't just sacrificial pieces, but actually formed the soul of chess strategy. Like, imagine someone telling you that the smallest, seemingly least important pieces were actually the key to mastering the entire game.
That must have completely changed how people approached chess strategy. And you mentioned this connected to other forms of knowledge preservation?
Exactly. Let's jump to the Pacific Northwest, where the Namgis people of British Columbia developed an entirely different but equally sophisticated system of preserving knowledge through their totems and burial grounds near Alert Bay.
Oh, interesting. So while Philidor was writing down chess strategies, the Namgis were literally carving their knowledge into physical structures?
Right. And what's really fascinating is how their main village of Yalis on Cormorant Island became this living repository of cultural wisdom, where every symbol and practice carries layers of meaning about their relationship with the land and their ancestors.
Well, that's such a different approach to preserving information than writing it in a book.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. Fast forward to 1936. And we've got the gem roller organ at the National Gallery of Art, which represents yet another innovative approach to preserving cultural knowledge.
So how does this mechanical device fit into the pattern you're seeing?
Well, think of it as an early form of programming. The roller has physical patterns that encode musical compositions, kind of like how modern digital music storage works. It's basically the Industrial Revolution's answer to the question of how to preserve and share artistic expression.
That's fascinating. So we've got written analysis, symbolic carvings, and mechanical patterns all trying to solve the same fundamental problem?
Exactly. And here's what's really mind-blowing. Each method perfectly reflects the values and capabilities of its culture. The European Enlightenment gave us systematic written analysis. Indigenous wisdom gave us holistic symbolic systems, and the Industrial Revolution gave us mechanical reproduction.
You know, it's remarkable how these different approaches continue to influence modern knowledge preservation.
Absolutely right. And what's particularly interesting is how these systems are adapting to modern times. The Namgis, for instance, are now using digital technology to document their traditional knowledge while maintaining their cultural practices.
Well, that raises an interesting question about the future of knowledge preservation. How do we balance traditional methods with new technologies?
That's exactly what makes studying these historical examples so valuable. They show us that successful knowledge preservation isn't just about the technology we use, but about understanding how different approaches can work together.
So what's the key lesson we can take from these three examples?
I think it's that human ingenuity finds countless ways to solve the universal challenge of passing wisdom to future generations. Whether through strategic analysis, symbolic representation, or mechanical innovation, each culture develops methods that reflect its unique understanding of what knowledge matters most.
And looking at these different approaches together gives us a much richer perspective on human innovation and cultural preservation.
You know, as we wrap up, I can't help but wonder what future generations will make of our current methods of preserving and sharing knowledge. Will they see our digital systems as primitive as we might view the gem roller organ? Or will they recognize, as we do with these historical examples, that each era finds its own brilliant solutions to this fundamental human need?